There are hundreds of NFL records and seemingly new ones set with every passing season, but these are some of the most outrageous and unbelievable records in NFL history. And this third down conversion is one of the most unbelievable things of all time. These days the smartest thing to do on a third and long is to run the ball and hope for the best, or throw a high percentage quick route and see if your pass catcher can break a couple tackles. The Minnesota Vikings faced one of the worst third and longs you'll ever see in 1999 with the Denver Broncos. It was 3rd and 37, backed up in the front of their own goal line. Quarterback Jeff George took the snap and tucked it into the belly of the running back Leroy Horde, who took off left and started making his way upfield. Denver had dropped almost everybody into coverage, and as Horde started to juke his way past a couple of tackles, they weren't prepared for him to pick up steam. Horde turned on the jets and brought his run back to the right-hand side, and with the help of a couple beautifully timed blocks, not only converted the 3rd and 37, but kept on going for a gain of 50 more yards. The Vikings were trailing at the time, but came back to win the game and take down the Broncos, who faced a tough season in '99 following the departure of the great John Elway. Speaking of great quarterbacks, the all-time record for the most playoff wins is one that might never be broken. It had belonged to the 49ers all-time legend Joe Montana when he claimed 16 playoff wins and 4 Super Bowls in the 80s and early 90s. But then a certain 6th-round draft pick was drafted out of Michigan to go and compete for the backup role in New England. When Tom Brady took over for an injured Drew Bledsoe,
Drew has not practiced with the offensive football team in 7 weeks.
Nobody outside of the building knew what to expect. The players and coaches around him knew how well he had prepared for this.
There's one thing I'm going to make sure I'm going to be prepared, and I'm going to prepare myself as hard as I can every week.
And he would take over as the starter and refuse to ever give the job back.
If I was in that situation, I don't know how I could have dealt with it. You know, when you're the quarterback, you always feel like I've had a big part to do with this game. But when you're the backup quarterback, you don't even feel like you're on the team. You feel like you're a fan.
In his first season starting with the Patriots, Brady led them all the way to a Super Bowl title, and that set the tone for what was about to be one of the most outstanding careers we're ever likely to see. Joe Montana was and still is considered the greatest of all time by many football fans, especially Niner fans, but his 16 playoff wins was about to be blown out of the water by Brady. Tom ended up winning 35 playoff games and 7 Super Bowls. 35 games, ladies and gentlemen. To put that in perspective, if you combine the playoff wins of 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks in Joe Montana and Peyton Manning, Brady still wins. Manning managed 14 playoff wins and 2 Super Bowls, and Steve Young, John Elway, and Terry Bradshaw joined him with 14 wins in the postseason. These names are not average Joes, and Brady's record set miles ahead of them is a testament to both the consistency and the longevity of a monumental career. Perhaps Patrick Mahomes can take a run at it with 11 playoff wins to his name as of the regular season in 2023. Brady's longevity in the league means he had one of the longest careers in the history of the game, but he still fell years short of the man sitting right at the top. George Blanda initially retired in 1958, but when the American Football League was formed in 1960, he came back to the game at the age of 43 and signed with the Houston Oilers. Many believe he was just an NFL reject, but he quickly proved the doubters wrong when he led the Oilers to back-to-back AFL championships in 1960 and 1961, as well as being named the AFL MVP in the later of the 2 championships. By 1967, when he signed with the Oakland Raiders, Blanda was utilized primarily as a kicker and helped the Raiders make the Super Bowl. He would play quarterback in relief at times due to injury, including several impressive performances despite being well into his 40s. He was elected the Associated Press Male Athlete of the Year in 1970, the first pro football player to ever earn the award. He was then voted the NFL Man of the Year in 1974 and played his final game as the Raiders kicker in the 1975 season AFC Championship game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. At the age of 48, he made a field goal in the 16-10 loss, and upon retiring, his 26-year-long NFL career set a record that still stands today. That's the longest NFL career, but how about the longest losing streak? George Blanda played for 26 seasons, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost 26 straight games in the late 70s. In 1976, the Bucs joined the NFL as an expansion franchise, along with the Seattle Seahawks. The league held an expansion draft for the two teams, and they became the two latest franchise to take part in regular season football. It turned out to be pretty tough sledding for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
You can't stop a pass or a run. Otherwise, we're in great shape. I've never seen such poor tackling.
Who managed to play the entire 14-game regular season without winning a game. The franchise immediately made history as the first to ever play an entire season without winning even one game. The expansion draft was a pool of aging veterans and depth players, and there was so little information about the medical history and health of these players that the Bucs ended the season with 17 players from their roster on injured reserve. The team finished dead last in points scored and touchdowns. They lost 34-0 against the New York Jets, 42-0 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and put up 0 points in 5 of the 14 games they played. For those who chose to follow the team, the wait for a win would take far longer than they might have imagined. When their second season got underway in 1977, the Bucs started losing again. They had the #1 pick in the draft, obviously, drafting running back Ricky Bell out of USC, and faced endless battles throughout the offseason amidst speculation that the entire franchise was a mess. As it turned out, they were right. The Bucs lost another 12 straight games to kick off the 1977 season. Eventually, they accumulated 26 straight losses, marking the biggest losing streak in the history of the NFL. So now we have the longest losing streak. How about the longest punt return? And one that will now likely never be broken. In 1994, Saints punter Tommy Bernhardt sent a high booming punt into the end zone, causing both sides to turn and head off of the field as they prepared for a first down for the St. Louis Rams offense. Only there was one issue. The ball never skipped out of the back of the end zone. Cornerback Robert Bailey was the only guy in the stadium paying attention. He looped around behind the ball, picked up steam as he scooped it up, and began sprinting back down the field. That 103-yard punt return is a record that still stands and is one that is likely never to be beaten with the touchback rules and safety precautions now put in place. On the subject of unbreakable records, let's talk about Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice played at the highest level at wide receiver for as long as anybody in the history of the game. After picking up 927 receiving yards in his rookie season, he went on to have 11 straight seasons with over 1,000 yards. And let's get one thing straight, he wasn't just scraping over that marker either. His second year in the league led to 1,570 receiving yards and 15 touchdowns. 1 year later, he posted another 1,078 and 22 touchdowns. And every year after that, for the next 9 years, Jerry had a minimum of 1,200 receiving yards in the league. Jerry won 3 Super Bowls. He was a 10-time first-team All-Pro, a 2-time Offensive Player of the Year, and led the league in receiving yards and touchdowns 6 times during his career. The result of all these incredible accomplishments, a spot at the very top of the all-time NFL receiving leaderboard, which must just last forever. Jerry Rice ended his career after playing for over 2 decades with 22,895 receiving yards on 1,549 receptions. To put that into perspective, Larry Fitzgerald, who has one of the longest and most successful careers at the position of all time, recorded 17,492 receiving yards, good enough for second place. That means that if Larry Fitzgerald had played for another 5 years and recorded 1,000 receiving yards in each of those years, he would still be a few hundred yards short of Jerry Rice's record. So if somebody like Larry Legend can't get close to Jerry, who is going to be able to do so? It's a never-ending reminder of just how dominant Jerry Rice was for as long as he played for in the NFL. And I think we've got time for one more, so let's flip to the defensive side of the football and pay tribute to one of the most incredible ball hawks the game has ever seen. The legendary Paul Krause announced himself to professional football in his rookie season in 1964. Krause was a second-round selection out of Iowa and quickly established himself as a dangerous safety when throwing the ball down the field. His ball hawking abilities earned him the nickname as the Vikings center fielder after being traded to Minnesota following his 4th season in Washington. Over the course of his career, Krause totaled 6 All-Pro selections, 8 Pro Bowl selections, and led the league in interceptions in his rookie year. His 81 NFL interceptions is a record that still sits atop the leaderboard today, with Tunnel having recorded 79 prior to Krause's career taking off, and Rod Woodson in 3rd place after picking up 71. Recording 81 career picks is quite the feat, and one that even the all-time great cornerbacks and safeties have found impossible to break. Krause's record looks set to stand for a very long time, and it'll take a Hall of Fame career and some truly elite ball skills to take down of one of the most untouchable records in NFL history. But what records do you believe to be unbreakable? Let us know down in the comments below or in the description below. Join our Discord and let us know in there, and perhaps there will be a part 2 to this video. I will catch you guys in the next one.